Feet with Coach JT. Before we get started, a couple shout outs, man. Thanks to our supporters, people who've been tapping in with the show, but also, man, hit the subscribe button, leave a like, comments, but also right now, man, hit the website at 94FeetWithCoachJT.com. You can see events, you can buy merch, you can see past, current shows, you can see some highlights. You even see some dope guests, people who have on the show before, as far as wearing my merch and supporting the brand, man. We appreciate y'all on this Friday, midday afternoon. Let me jump into this intro, man. This one I'm very excited about, but also timing is everything. I'll say that. For 26 years, this gentleman called games inside of the California Department of Corrections Rehabilitation Center. No one heard of him outside of prison until the Golden State Warriors came inside the prison and filmed and showed a video, San Quentin State Prison. It was called, let me get it right though. It was called Cue Ball. And again, I know during the pandemic, y'all all had to see this because it was all over the news, all over the media, especially us on the West Coast. This gentleman here has been calling games, though, or watching games since early in his childhood, watching the great Chick Hearn. He's a Southern California native. He is a diehard Lakers fan, I believe, but also he's a good gentleman. He's a good heart. Also, once he got out, he went to Venice Basketball League. He called several leagues over there around Southern California. His goal, his passion is not only to provide play-by-play for sports, but also introduce, again, not just call play-by-play for sports, but he wants to also introduce the athletes and sports audience eager to learn more about how to overcome trials, tribulations, and tragedies. His story is none like one of his, but also it's maybe some guys who have something incorporate with him. They may be able to, I would say, like, be empathetic with him. They may be able to see somebody when they see him, when they hear this episode today, when they see his movie. I'm passionate about this because I watched that episode during COVID, not knowing 2 years later I'd have the opportunity to interview none other than the guy with great energy, great passion, great respect already for this gentleman, Aaron Showtime Taylor. Sir, how you doing? How you doing?
Man, I'm well. I appreciate the offer. You know what I'm saying? When we was over at Alameda Point at
Yeah.
the gym last week, and it was just an honor to see you. You know, I saw the sign first, right?
That's
And when I saw the sign, I'm like, I know that sign. I see that sign on the Heart in the Paint all the time,
hey,
right? I'm
that's
going to talk to this brother because this brother's been following Heart in the Paint ever since I put this
hey,
up on IG, and then I saw where you had been following me
yeah,
from the Aaron Showtime Taylor page, and then all the
man.
connections we have together, Fatima and the
Yep.
whole WUBA and the WPBA now. There's
Yes,
so many
sir.
connections that it's an honor to meet you as well.
No, man. And I've been in space now, especially as this thing grows, sir. And as we know, right, you got to physically be in the space to sometimes get these blessings. And
Hmm.
I'm looking, I'm like, who around? So even before you came over there real quick, we're at the gym, you guys. And I'm like, who is this guy walking back and forth, commentating the game? But I'm like, if you can't hear over everybody, you might miss out. But I'm like, he is really going in. But I know they got to be pumping the player up. I mean, he walking by. It's like Rucker Park, Venice Beach Park, but you're walking coaching box to coaching box. But I mean, you know what I'm saying, calling the game. I'm like, that sounds dope. But then you came over and I was like, I know this name. I've seen the same thing, gentlemen. I've seen him on thing, but I was like, I couldn't put two together. And then when you came over, sir, and then shook my hand, I had to come. I told, soon I got home, I told all my family about it. I told everybody about it. Because for me, one, again, the story behind that we're gonna get into, but just I
Right.
have to be in that space right now because you just never know what could happen and what could come from that. And I appreciate you. You know what I mean? That gave me so much more energy the rest of the day. I was pumped up watching you work, vice versa, and you coming over doing our little interview. I was like, okay, yeah, he got that energy. OG got
I
that
mean that
gas with him.
that day, right? That day. So the listening audience knows that the 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 stream that we wanted to do that
Mhm.
Fatima and the Women's Premier Basketball Association, they wanted to stream that,
Yes,
and something happened with the links.
always.
Either they got the link through, but they couldn't get the
Mhm.
audio, or the audio came through and they couldn't get the link out. And so
Right.
they was like, man, we're not gonna be able to stream this. And I'm like, okay, don't worry about it, right? So then it went to, well, how am I gonna do the play by play if I'm not doing it in the camera? Well,
Mhm.
as you just said, for 26 years inside of the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitations on level fours, level threes, and level twos, I stood underneath the basketball backboard, back up against the pole, and call basketball games.
Mm.
No microphone or nothing, loud enough, and clear enough for people within a good 50 to 75 feet around the court could hear me clear everywhere. I don't care what was going on. So
Outside voice for real.
outside voice, right? The outside voice. So for me to
Yeah.
do that in there, right?
Yeah.
I had already brought honey and lemon because I knew I was gonna have to do 4 games, but I thought I was gonna do
Mhm.
4 games in a live stream. I didn't know I was gonna have to do 3 of those games out loud as if I did in prison. So it was
Yeah.
just like for me, just going back to the yard again. And
I was gonna say
the
take it
only
back.
difference was I didn't have to worry about knives or a ride jumping off. I had a bunch of women basketball players and a
Mhm.
crowd around to watch the game. So,
For
I
sure.
just took it back to the old school and did what I did.
Oh yeah, use using your element completely. You could tell that. You could tell that. Um, so I mean, we got as you know, you're not new to this, man, because you've been at this going hard in the paint for a while. Hey, you guys, if you don't know, you better know. Follow Hard in the Paint podcast. Tap in, Mr. Taylor. I'm telling you, tap into his content. Follow the page, repost for him, all that stuff. SoCal, LA. Growing up in a time with before all this stuff right now is so much advanced. Um, Early age childhood sports though. I mean, outside of commentating, what did you participate in as a young African American guy in LA where sports is big? Was that were you a sports kid or what were you into at that early stage of your career?
Early, like I just told some guys in the house with me. I pulled out my Kansas City. I have a Edwards Hilaire jersey number 25. I'm gonna get
Mm-hmm.
a Pat Mahomes. That's my goal. I gotta get a Pat
I
Mahomes,
get a
and
patty.
I gotta get a number 89 Otis Taylor jersey too, the
Oh,
original, right?
OG.
Because
Yeah.
that's why I'm a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Okay.
And so growing up, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it was all football. I was a
Mm,
Kansas City Chiefs fan, diehard. I'm born in '65, so the first time the Chiefs won, well, the first time I was old enough to remember them winning one was 1969.
mm,
Right. So from 1969 on, I've been a Kansas City Chief fan, and football is actually one of my biggest loves. And I played football all the time growing up in the street, in the park, and whatnot. Tried out for high school, didn't make it. X's and O's, though. I'm really, really big on X's and O's. And
mm,
so it was a natural transition when basketball came around. You growing up shooting the ball and stuff. But when I went to Crenshaw High School the year before, that's when Daryl Strawberry,
mm,
Cordy Dillard, Chris Brown. It was a whole lot of people that came out of that 79-80 class at Crenshaw that went to professional baseball and basketball.
mm,
And so one of those gentlemen was named Cordy Lee Dillard, Dillard. He's definitely a Venice Beach legend, but he took Crenshaw High School as the point guard and they won the city championship in 79.
mm,
And so I'm 15, 16 years old, graduated from Crenshaw when I was 16, and I went to work for his company, him and his brother's company, which was a Magic Rooter at the time back then. And being around him, basketball naturally comes up because
mm.
I'm not a Laker fan, right? I've always been a Clipper fan, right?
Okay.
But everybody around me is
Purple
a
and
purple and gold.
purple go.
You know what I'm saying? And back then, back in the day, in the late '70s, early '80s,
Mm-hmm.
the NBA was on CBS back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, going into Boy Scouts and stuff, growing up in the mid '70s and stuff, we always went to the sports arena and saw the Lakers and stuff. But then the Lakers moved from the sports arena over to Inglewood to
Mm-hmm.
the Great
To
Western
the
Forum.
form. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and during that time is when Showtime Lakers took off,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't care what was going on. I don't
Yeah.
care what was happening. I may not be a Laker fan,
You
but
watch.
Chick Hearn is calling that game.
Ah, okay.
See what I'm saying? And Chick Hearn's calling that game. You're listening, so we would turn the TV down and
Mm.
turn the simulcast on the radio up,
Just
and
listen
we
to
would be
him.
listening to Chick Hearn on the radio. So that's where my love of play-by-play comes from.
Mm-hmm.
But it also comes from learning the X's and O's from a friend, from a guy who was one of my heroes growing up, Cordy
Mm-hmm.
Dillard. Like I said, he won the city championship with Crenshaw in '79, and he's
Mm-hmm.
definitely a Venice Beach legend. Right before the VBL, they used to have the 3-on-3 Pepsi challenges and stuff like that back in the
Mm-hmm.
day. And he's a Hall of Famer out there. So learning basketball from the X's and O's perspective from him turned me into a bigger basketball fan. So I was
Mm-hmm.
able to appreciate the Showtime Lakers, the Bad Boy Pistons, the Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers when they had Brad Daugherty and Mark Price and Ron Harper.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm basketball through there, right? So yeah, I played basketball and football growing up. And as I got older, I haven't played it, but I definitely have a very, very good love and appreciation for hockey now.
Mm.
I love hockey.
Yeah, yeah. I
Ain't nothing,
definitely.
it ain't nothing better than watching big ass dudes roll around on an eighth of an inch blade
Crazy.
on skates,
Take a high skill set,
fully padded up like football players
but then
with
got
a stick, right? And if you don't like what they got to say, the referees back up and they get to grab it.
to. It's a truly a definition of contact sport.
And you
Truly
only
a
get
definition.
2 minutes to 5 minutes in the penalty box.
You can
Hell
come
yeah,
back
I
out.
love hockey.
You get to come back out, and you got to pay for
Love
pay,
it.
no pay-per-view fee. You get to
No,
watch it.
no.
No
I
pay-per-view.
mean,
You get
you
to
get
watch
it good.
fights.
And when they grab him, look,
Yeah.
no shade. No shade when I say this. I know people don't like bringing up race, right? But I'm going to bring it up in this instance.
Uh-huh.
When it comes to hockey, them white boys don't be playing around. They grab each other in the collar and they
They
just
go, yeah. It's serious. It's
they
serious, man, for
serious
sure.
about it. I love it.
It's
My
serious.
favorite all-time player. It's a trip because people be like, Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, I love Wayne Gretzky.
But
No, Robert Taylor. The long time he played 18, 19 years in the league. He was a king, a Los Angeles king,
okay.
and he made it to his first Stanley Cup Finals after Wayne Gretzky got on the team and led the team
Mm,
into the Stanley Cup Finals, right? And so Dave Taylor, excuse me, I said Robert. Dave Taylor
mhm.
is one of my favorite hockey players all time. But you got the greats, Gordie Howe, um, you got me Bergeron,
Oh yeah.
um,
You got a lot of them.
some of
Lemieux, all them dudes, man. All them
Mario
dudes.
Lemieux,
Yeah.
the brother that got hit in the head, Donald Brashear. He
Yeah.
was another one of my favorite players. And right
Is
now,
Crosby still playing?
who?
Crosby? For the
No, he's a little older. But now
Oh,
PK
okay.
Subban is the man. Subban is the man.
Really?
Yeah, PK. Yeah,
Okay.
shouts out to PK, baby. I keep my eye on you, brother, because it's
That's
only
what's
a
up.
handful of brothers in the league.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
was a fan of the NHL, period. But
Mhm.
once you start getting people that look like you out there, that's
I'm gonna give it a
even
little more
more of an
attention.
interest.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give
yeah.
it a little
And
more
so
love.
yeah, when it comes to sports, I played baseball growing up too. You know what I'm saying? So it's really all around. I swam for
Yeah.
Dorsey High School. I swam for Enterprise Park in LA. I swam for Enterprise Park. I swam for Dorsey. I made it to a city finals where I
Mhm.
finished in fourth in the backstroke, 200 and 400 backstroke. Right. So it's all the
Yeah.
sports growing up, even golf. I learned how to play golf when I was at Chino the first time I went to
Ooh.
prison
Yeah,
and
yeah,
fell
yeah,
in love
man.
with it. So all sports, all sports. I'm with all of
Definitely
them.
a mental sport. Definitely that's a lot of
Boxing,
that mental fortitude on golf, man. That first eight can be good or bad. You can flip it around like that. That's
right,
mental. That's mental toughness for sure, man.
right.
So growing up out there, you said during the 80s, I mean, you've been through it. You've seen it. You've seen the communities. You've seen what it is. Just in general, how was the environment as a childhood out there? What was that like, man? Because as we know today, right? People see you now, right? But your story is out there for people to listen to. But also that's of like the last what ESPN or whoever else chose to put out there, right? But it's in generalized.
Mhm.
Just um, give me a little bit of summary, just a background about that growing up, man, and some of the things you've had to endure like I said, because you're not who you are without going through those things at even a younger age, right?
Right. Well, I mean, I almost want to say typical, but it's not typical,
Mhm,
right? When we start talking about typical young black males growing up in America in
mhm,
general, right? Um, but they even inside of being a typical young black male, typical young American, right? There is those challenges, right? And I had internal family things that was going on.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I grew up in one house where my mother was at, it was drug use and stuff like that. When I went to my grandmother's house, it was strict discipline from the country style discipline. You know what I'm saying? So
So where's grandma
um,
from
my
originally?
grandmother is from Birmingham, Alabama, and my
Oh yeah.
grandfather was from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh,
So
both of those places is that
when we got ass whoopings growing up, boy,
you
I'm
got
telling
one.
you, boy, man, listen, and I'm old enough. I'm old enough to tell you this. When
Mm,
we was young, if we messed up coming home from school, the
mhm.
neighbors would whoop us and
Before
then
you
tell
got
my
home.
grandmother and grandfather what we did and why they whooped us, and then we would get another whooping from them.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm old enough to remember that. But
Yeah.
even with that being said, part of my family's been on drugs all my life, or up until I went to prison, and a lot of them cleaned up while I was in prison.
Hmm.
I've had personal challenges, right? One of them that really, really messed me up, and I really didn't become aware of it until I was in prison, and I'm 40 something years old at the time,
Hmm.
is that I've had a very, very unhealthy sexual relationship when I was 15 years old with a 26-year-old woman,
Hmm.
right? And that's not the cause of why I went to jail. That's a factor
Hmm.
in the childhood trauma that helped send me to jail.
Hmm.
The year before that happened, I got robbed for the first time. I ditched school at Crenshaw High School. I ditched off campus right down the street from my house. I mean, literally half a block from my house.
Hmm.
And guy pulls a gun on me. Two dudes, they pull a gun on me, pull me between the store and apartment building, take my little gold, go in my pocket and take my money. And I'm so scared that I'm gonna get in trouble because I ditched school that I didn't tell my mother and my stepfather that I got robbed at gunpoint at 14 years old.
Hmm.
Right. Then the following year, I'm leaving I leave out of the state of California and go to Texas, right, to live with a family member,
Hmm.
right, because my mother doesn't want me involved in gangs or nothing like that. And gangs was definitely going to be a part of my life, right? And I go to Texas, and then that's where I get into this very, very, again, unhealthy sexual relationship with a grown ass woman,
Hmm.
right? And so coming out of that, I'm 15 going into 16. And so by the time I'm 16 now, I've been jaded.
Hmm.
I've been robbed at gunpoint, not and had sex with an older woman, right? And so at 15, 16 years old, I was not emotionally or mentally equipped
Hmm.
to deal with that type of stuff. So, like most people our age at that time, I started drinking and smoking weed to cover up the pain because,
No,
going to
no, no
counseling wasn't going to
outlets.
be easy.
Yeah,
None.
no
Well,
outlets.
no,
No.
no, no, let's be clear. There were outlets.
Hmm.
There was definitely help. There's always been help out in the Black community for us. The thing that stops us is the what are people going to think
Think
about me
about
if
me.
they find out I'm going to talk to somebody?
Accepting
You
that,
know,
being okay with that.
right. Now we understand that mental health is actually as important, if not more important, than
Physical.
physical health,
Yes, sir.
because how you think dictates how you feel, and
How
that can
you
have an
react.
effect on your body,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So when I'm 16 and 17 years old and I'm having these, back and forth things going in my head about this relationship I was in,
Hmm.
I never had a chance to talk to anybody. So one of the ways I did was lash out violently. So I joined a gang in my neighborhood,
Hmm.
right? And I wanted to be the biggest, baddest guy at the time, but I wasn't.
Hmm.
And I ended up getting on heavier drugs. I went from weed to cocaine because that's when the cocaine epidemic, before crack, it was
Hmm.
cocaine.
Hmm.
And I started smoking cocaine when I was 16, going on 17 as well. So it's the paradigm of being treated like an adult, even though you're a child, and you're expected to respond as an adult, even though you're a child
Yep.
with adult experience.
Mm. And I think
And
also not knowing you will eventually have to face adult consequences,
exactly, the
even though you're a
consequences,
child.
even though you're a child, the consequences of
Mm.
that, in my case, didn't really unravel until I was in a self-help group some 30 years later,
Mhm.
after the relationship. I'm 42, 43, 44 in a group, and I
Mhm.
hear somebody talking about what sexual assault is. And, like most guys, and I'm going to say most guys, you think sexual assault is, the violent thing. You
Mhm.
don't ever look at it at the games that get played along the way.
Mhm.
And so when I'm listening to somebody else talk about it, and I was like, damn.
That
And the
happened to
dude
me.
next to him, he's like, what?
You can relate.
I said, man, that was me.
Mm.
He said, what? I said, bruh, I was sexually
Mm.
assaulted when I was 15 years old by a 26-year-old woman. And I'm just now really like, you
Yeah.
can't tell nobody in the hood at 15, 16 years
Because
old
we would
that
have thought that was the thing to get into or to brag about, not knowing it messes us up. It messed
how
you up
many
like that.
how many guys do you know? We ain't got to say the number. How many
Yeah.
guys got babies by women 5 or 6 years older than them, and they was fathers at 16.
No, yeah, that's nah. That's
They was fathers at 16, but the baby mama's 21, 22, 23.
yeah.
See, and that's so normal in our neighborhood that what did I
Mhm.
look like going out talking about I was emotionally messed up behind this?
Mhm.
It would have never worked. And so those were just some of the challenges that I had that it actually helped lead me to drugs
Mhm.
and harder drugs, which eventually, because of my personal decisions, led me
Mhm.
to jail in 1984. And it was another emotional situation that I couldn't handle in 1992
Mhm.
that led me right back to drugs again and led me
Mhm.
to prison for 26 years in 1994.
So, and during this, I mean, as we know, like during that time, the support was there, but not being open, not whatever. When you're on this that time where you're on these drugs, though, um, And we're a day and age where suicide is high too. Was there a
Hmm.
time when you felt like you had to do something else or you want to end your situation? Like I'm done with this, or it was just the drugs were maintaining. It was a coping skill until you either bounced back, or was the time where you was like, you know what, I'm done, man. I can't do this no more.
The only time I ever really seriously contemplated suicide, and I mean seriously contemplated, like I literally had the sheet around my neck, and I'm standing up on the bunk and I got one foot off and I'm about to lean and go off. The only time that ever happened was when I first got arrested in 94, and I didn't really realize how much time I was facing.
Mm,
I had a lot of counts that I was just not even trying to pay attention to. I didn't want to deal with that reality.
mm,
And I remember one day, one of the nurses came by, and it was pill call. And so they bring me my meds, and I asked her something, right? And she said, "What are you in here for?" And I said, "Robbery and attempted murder and kidnap." Right? She said, "Oh, you're probably never going to see daylight again." Laughed and
mm,
walked off. Right?
mm,
And I'm sitting there, and I got this psychiatric medication in my hand that's going to get me high, though. That's the reason I'm in the pill module, because I'm
mhm,
trying to stay high because I don't want to deal with the reality of why I'm in jail.
mhm,
Right? I'm in jail for 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of kidnap, 12 counts of armed robbery,
mm.
1 count of attempted armed robbery, one great bodily injury, one assault with a deadly weapon, one ex-con with a gun.
Jesus
Right?
Christ,
Yeah, I was a bad.
man.
You don't even realize it when
Mm.
you're doing it, but when they catch you and this stuff start coming,
They run it down to you.
you like, I did all that shit, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's
And so she said, you never gonna get out.
mhm,
And I'm like, what? And then I remember going blank for a minute, right? I do remember looking at the sheet. I
mm,
do remember tearing the sheet and making the rope,
mm.
right? And I remember getting up on my bunk and climbing up high where the bars was at and getting it up there and tying it and making sure it could hold my weight and then put it around my neck, right? And had it. Because the woman said I was never coming out of jail. I was 28 years old. I think I just turned 29 at the time,
Mm.
right? The concept, the thought of me never walking out of jail again, the idea that I was never going to have sex again totally blew me away. And I was like, I don't even want to look, I don't even want to face that.
Mhm.
So that's the only time I ever actually considered killing myself and was about to do it. And for whatever reason, I
I
didn't
was
take that step off that bump.
I was gonna say, well, whatever
I got,
reason or just it just that other whatever, just keep going.
I don't know what it was.
Well,
I
we know
can't,
now.
I'm not
We
gonna,
know now what it was because you're here right now. We know now what it was. You had more stuff to do.
well, whatever it was, I made a decision.
Yeah, yeah. You had more to do. Man,
Some people like to say, I had a come to Jesus moment or
right.
God talking. It wasn't none of that stuff.
Mhm.
Straight up, I'm standing there with my foot off the bunk. The other one is on my toes, barely hanging on the
One or
bunk.
two ways. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what you gonna do?
Hmm. You had to you decided that. What you gonna do?
What you gonna
Yeah.
do? Matter of fact, I still had the bullet right here in my face from the shootout I was in when I got arrested, when I did this stuff. They hadn't even pulled the bullet out my face yet.
That's
So that was my one
man.
moment. Other than that, I tried to wake up every day in prison. Out of the 26 years, 3 months and 3 weeks in prison, I could tell you how many times I woke up in a bad mood on 2 hands.
Mm, perception.
26 years, 3 months, and three
Two hands.
weeks. I could tell you how many times on 2 hands I woke up in a bad mood.
Hmm. Man.
That's it. I wasn't waking up in a bad mood because once I took that rope from off my neck
Hmm.
and I started doing the time, and instead of letting the time do me,
Hmm.
right? It took a minute for me to get to the point where I started being selfless and working for other people,
Hmm.
right? But I did start looking at the time and I started basically attacking it, right? Hold on, my
It's
phone is
all
tripping
good.
right now.
I think we'll be back. I mean, it'll hopefully get back. Let's see here.
Yeah, I'm still
I
here.
see you here. It's all
Sometimes
good.
sometimes it pops out on me.
It's all right. Let's see here. I'm still here with you.
Yeah, I got some. Yeah, I got something on my phone keeps tripping like that.
All right.
Turn the
Let me
phone
see that.
phone on. My my camera.
It got you on the second one. Look like you trying to brought up on another one. Though. Let me see if I can get this.
Okay, I'm gonna have to let me come out of
Let me
this
see.
and come
So
back.
hold on. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can do this real quick.
All
All
right,
right.
there you go. Remove me from
I
the screen.
did that one. Just that one. Try it again. I don't know. You can go out and come back in. Let's see. Go ahead. Try it. You can
All
go
right.
ahead. While you do that, though, I'm gonna give a little shout out here. You can go back, come out. While Mr. Taylor's trying to get it right, we take a little quick second, man. Hit the website right now. 94 feet with Coach JT. Still got you. Let me see. I'm how you come back out of both. I don't
Okay,
want to
let me go
remove
out
you.
there. Let me go all the way out.
All right. There you go. All right. Visit the website while Mr. Taylor gets right. Sorry for the little mix up or whatever right there. You know, it's technical difficulties, but hit 94feetwithcoachjt.com right now. Tap in. I got everything up on there. Man, I needed some, I got to get my first sale going, man. Do your boy a favor, man. Be the first one to buy some merch off the site. I appreciate it as Mr. Taylor tries to come back. Also, definitely just want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you would like to just give me donations for the show, appreciate it. Cash App, Venmo, 94 Feet with Coach JT. Both of those platforms, everything goes back to the show. Pay for the platforms, pay for website stuff, all that like that. So appreciate y'all for doing that. And he's right back. Like I said, I'm getting better at this production thing from my side, so we good. You there, sir? I see
Yeah,
you.
I'm here.
Okay, we still screen
Yeah,
still
I had
frozen.
somebody try to hit me up.
That's what it is. Okay, no problem. I still got a
That's why my
frozen
phone went out.
screen.
Somebody tried to call me.
Okay, got you. No problem at all. I still got your screen though, kind of on pause. I'm not sure why.
I'm coming back to you right now.
Okay, all good, all good.
There we go.
There you go. Yes, sir. All good. He's back. He's back. So
I
yeah,
had to send
please.
a text out real quick.
It's all good. Hey, it happens, man. We don't keep it going. That's why we live. We going uncut, having these conversations. I was giving shout out the website again, showing a little merch. Man, they can buy a little merch. Hit the website. Appreciate everybody for going on doing that. But yeah, let's get back to what we're talking about there. It's just the fact of make that decision, right? One or two ways. Didn't do that. But I do want to get a detail that I just watched it. I know I watched it like 2 or 3, 4 times a weekend, man, and sent it to my family. The furniture store incident, right?
The who?
The furniture store incident, right? Just
Yeah.
going to that night, going to that event. Was it just a background to? Was it a robbery to for the store wants and needs, or how did like walk me through that
That
night
was
a little bit?
drugs.
Yeah. Okay.
That was all drugs.
Hmm. The
That was
point
all
I
drugs. I was on. So what happened in 1992? I was in a relationship. Well, the end of 91, going into 92, I was in a relationship with this sister, right?
okay.
And she was pregnant, and she was using drugs at the time while she was pregnant, and we had
Okay.
gotten together. And so, um, coming out of that, I think it was Valentine's Day, 1992,
Mm,
right? And for we had been together for a few months, and it had been a battle. You know what I'm saying? Like, trying to help her stay off of drugs.
mm-hmm.
I'm a former drug addict as well at the time, but I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't nowhere thinking about using drugs again at this point. And I remember it was Valentine's Day, 1992. And the girl I was with, she said, I've been pretty good for the past couple of months. I ain't did nothing and used nothing. You know what I'm saying? What's going on? It's Valentine's Day. Let's celebrate.
Mm,
And for whatever reason, I don't know what got in me that night on Valentine's. I agreed to that shit. I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna do it with you too. She looked, she
mm,
said, what? I said, yeah, I'm gonna do it with you too. And she said, but didn't you go to jail in 84 for that stuff? I was like, yeah, but it's been a long time. And we're not finna do this every day. This is like a celebration for Valentine's Day. You've been good. I haven't. Let's go on and celebrate.
mm-hmm.
Worst mistake I made in my life.
Mm,
Because man, once I again, that
mm.
was a wrap. Because I was not me anymore. I was the individual who couldn't control himself anymore.
And
I
then
was the
that's after what
individual.
an 8 or 9 year non-usage.
It was probably about 5 or 6
About
straight
five.
good solid years. I had a rap career going at that time, right? I was working,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was doing really, really good. And
Mm,
being in a relationship seemed like the next natural step to
mm,
start building a family. Not
understandable.
ripping and running. I don't have any kids. I was careful with that. Growing up,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't. making kids that I couldn't take care of. I was
Mhm.
really strong about that because people around me had baby mama and baby daddy drama. So I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't want that. So I didn't have any kids. And so getting in a relationship and being a plumber and pursuing my rap career at the time, it just seemed natural,
Mhm.
right? I made a wrong choice. I invested myself in a woman who wasn't ready to change,
Mm.
and it's not her fault that I went to jail. It's not her fault that I started using drugs again. I made the decision on Valentine's Day in 1992 to use cocaine again with
Mhm.
somebody,
Mhm.
and there was no way in the world now or then that I could ever hold them accountable for my personal decisions. I made that mistake, and that mistake led me to picking up a gun.
Mhm.
And before I used to rob just for money and for something I needed. But once I got on drugs, the robberies were all about I need enough money to get drugs.
Mhm.
Then it went from I need enough money to get drugs, pay my rent, pay my bills, pay my
Mm.
car note. So I became a functional crackhead robber.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? I'm robbing stuff, but I'm robbing and paying bills and taking care of shit. You know what I'm saying? It was
Mhm.
crazy, until I got arrested.
Yeah. The picture that was painted, I heard you say in the video, people say you tell them, um, where you knew when you got granted grace. The guy in the store, the butt of the gun, hand up, getting ready to hit you across the head with the butt of the gun. Another worker stops him.
The owner of the store
The owner of the store comes,
The owner of the
stops
store
him.
was on the phone calling the police right above. Like if I'm laying here, I could
Hmm.
hear his voice back over here.
Right.
Right. So what happens is, let's back up. So I go in the furniture store.
Yep.
I tell this dude I'm acting like I'm finna do some business. I got a handful of ones, bought up, make it look like a nice knot. Get him in the back of the store, draw down like, oh, come here, we finna do this, right? He wasn't like everybody else. This white dude looked and said, man, you ain't taking nothing from me. I could see it in his eyes. And
Mm.
he rushed me. Right? Knock the gun out my hand, the gun fall, right? I go to pick the gun up, forget that it's a left hand safety on the gun, and I got
Mm.
it that way. So if somebody grabbed my gun, they could shoot themselves. Lo and behold, what happened? I forget I got a left hand safety, grab
You
the
great.
gun, bow, shot myself in the finger in the middle of this robbery. I got a big ass, flesh
Yeah.
hanging off and blood flying everywhere. I'm trying to get out of there now because it done turned into something more than I wanted. I'm not trying to kill nobody. I just need the money.
Mm.
So on my way trying to get out, if I go left, I'm gonna get shot up here on the right side because
Mm.
there's no cover. If I go right where this door is, there's cover there. I won't get shot. Maybe I can get out. And when I run to that door and snatch it open, there's a bar door there. It's 7:30 in the morning, maybe a quarter to 8. So the sunlight's coming in, hit me right in the face. I look back this way, and the worker had a 22 rifle,
Mm.
lined me right up. And I seen it. And just like I said in the thing, man, the way I lived my life up until that point, I was always on the other side of that gun.
Mm.
This day, I found myself on that side of the gun. So when I looked and seen what he was getting ready to do, I turned my head because I know what I want to see when I go. It
Mm.
was just like that. It was, and when I turned my head this way, he
Mm.
shot. The bullet hits me here. Don't hit me square. It hits me as my head is turning and drives my head into the wall. And then I go down and knock out.
Wow.
When I'm waking up, I hear him and I look up and I see old boy with the butt of the rifle coming, getting ready to come like this. The only thing I could do, I went to put my hand like this, but I
Mhm.
heard him say, "Don't do that. The police are on the way. Don't hit him." This is 1994.
Mm.
7 years later, in 2001, we have 9/11 take place. I'm on a level 4 prison in High Desert State Prison up in the top of California. And I end up going to the hole because I'm a Muslim when 9/11 jumps off, and they pretty much locked all the Muslims up right after 9/11.
Mm.
And I'm sitting in the hole, and Ad said, like, how the fuck did I end up in the hole from something that somebody from another country did?
Mm.
And rather than do what most other people did, I started reflecting on my life and what led me to prison.
Mm.
I was sitting in there because of choices I made as a young man. And I couldn't walk away from those choices anymore. I had to be accountable to them. Right. So it was in that moment in 2001, going into 2002. That was my aha moment. That was the moment when I finally understood how much grace that man showed me
Mm.
by not allowing that man to deform me and hit me in the face or in the head with the butt of that rifle. That's when I started really paying attention to what type of dude, because I went in there and violently tried to rob that store. We had a shootout. I went through 2 clips in that store. They went through some clips in that store. We
Mm.
was shooting in that. We was in there at it for real. Bullet
Wow.
holes, all kind of stuff everywhere. I seen the videotape when I was fighting my own case. I finally got that stuff. I heard the audio and I saw the video. I'm like, man, we was getting it up in there, not hitting nothing, but it was violent in there.
Wow.
And for that man, right after that, to stop that guy from hitting me, after I just went in there and in their mind, I tried to kill him. It wasn't me just trying to shoot bullets to get you out the way so I can get out. It to them, he's trying to kill us. For him to stop that man from hitting me in the face made me finally sit down and think, what have you been doing with your life, Aaron?
Mm. Yes. Yeah, man. You do your time. You don't let the time do you, sir. Uh, that's amazing. That's to me, even like I said, when I first off, let me tell you this. I appreciate you again because I never even imagined I'd be talking to you face to face. But I watched that during the COVID. But I also know Coach Tion from the Bay Area. Tion was there playing. Me and
Yeah, the T1000. Yeah, that's
Tion,
T1000 right there.
his folks from Mississippi, from Vidalia, from
Right.
Faraday. My mom from Natchez, Mississippi. We from, I was like randomly met Tion at a basketball thing years ago. I was like, Tion, we both got us out. I never thought, but I thought that was super amazing. But also how you just the passion you have to one now support others, right? You were going back and communicating, teaching, trying to bring them along, but also the ones because some people say you don't get a second chance, but some people do. Some people
I
do.
got a third.
So now
This is my third.
it's about what you
I've been
do.
there. I've been
It's
in
about
jail
what you do.
twice, dog. I went
Man,
to the pen in 1984 and I went to the pen in 1994.
two
It was
times,
3 strikes. I lived my life so reckless and so violently,
man.
that the 3 strikes law applied to me, specifically to me. It was tailored for people like me. I was a problem.
Yeah, that's
I was a problem in the 90s. And when it got time into my sentence, I didn't want to be that way anymore.
mhm.
I didn't want to always be turned up. I didn't always want to be. I mean, I gang bang, but I wasn't the dude to be, dressed up with the rags all around my
Mhm.
head and down my back, like I got a cape. And every time you seen me, I was just super. I wasn't that dude. I
Right,
wasn't turned up like that. I was the
right.
Bobby Brown lookalike. And if I seen you slipping someplace, and I'm gonna go to
Mhm,
my trunk and put my ski mask on, I was that guy.
mhm.
And I just didn't want to live that way no more.
To
And so I started giving back inside
mhm,
right around 2006. My brother died in 2006,
mm,
and my nieces and nephews were all like 12, 11, and younger. And so in my head, I'm like, man, my brother's dead. I got to be a better role model for my nieces and nephews.
mhm.
So I started changing my whole skit around.
How did when you decide to make that shift though, and you start to, I'm sure, start finding relief or joy or comfort in doing something different that you haven't done in years, how was that like for you?
Uh, it wasn't easy.
Mm,
It wasn't easy because the first person I met that started me on this change is named Tobias Tubbs, aka Ibn Wali Shakir. Right? He's not only my imam, that man has been everything to
mm,
me. And when I got to Calipatria State Prison in 2002, and I met him, um, his thing was about smiling. Just a smile. Not a smile. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't gonna let the time do me. I'm doing the time, but
mhm.
this brother was radical about smiling. So radical, the police used to give him write-ups because he was smiling
Intentionally.
because he refused to allow his circumstances, because he was not guilty and
Mhm,
he had been given 100 years or something to life for not telling,
mm,
having faith in the system that, well, I didn't do it, so you're not going to send me to jail. And lo and behold, the system locked him up anyway. So he refused it. And I'd never met anybody in prison who said, man, I think we should just smile from now on. Like, what? You know how corny that sounds? We killers in prison, man. I done did time with dudes that took lives. You know what I'm saying? I like to tell people that my time was like Freddie the Fox's verse in the militia, right? By Gangstar. When it comes on, right? If feds only knew how I felt about the rap game, they relocate and change their fucking name. I eradicate move shakers, roll with coke shakers, give dap to mad money makers, shared cells with life takers, had sex with rump shakers. I made moves so I'm a nerve breaker. That's how I lived my life. You know, I've been known to instill fear. Although the world may be round, I was still trapped in a square. That was my life. And I don't want to be like that no more. So after my brother died, I went into a lifers parenting class so I can get some skills on how to communicate to my nieces and nephews, right? Other than like a penitentiary dude, or I didn't want to sound like the dude on In Living Color that Damon Wayans played.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother. Allow me for 1 second, brother, to flush out my diarrhea tract as I speak. You know, I didn't want to sound like that when I came
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. That's
And
definitely true.
so I took a lifers parenting class. I left that. I went to AANA. Even though I hadn't been on drugs since I had been arrested, I was still technically an addict. Even though I hadn't used drugs since 1994, hadn't smoked. Wait, let me be clear. I hadn't used cocaine since 1994. Hadn't smoked crack since 1994 when I got arrested. I stopped drinking in 2000 and I stopped smoking weed in 2000. So I was in jail for 6 years. I was drinking and smoking weed, right? But I wasn't using any harder drugs than that. But then I stopped in 2000. I wanted to change everything. I didn't want to be the same way no more. And prison actually allowed me to become a better person, a selfless person, because at Sentinella State Prison on the level 3 is where we created those sports leagues. And I had to literally give of myself every time we went out there. And I wasn't getting nothing back for that, other than the satisfaction of knowing I can't be out here with my own nieces and nephews. So I'm going to pour into y'all. I'm going to pour everything into y'all.
Yeah.
And all them young Crips and young Bloods and them young cats that was on the yard, you know, I was like 41, 42, 43, they 24, 25, 26. I remember being their age. And I remember that lack of confidence you have sometimes with amongst your peers. Everybody wants to stick their chest up and talk about what they did, you know. And I remember that age and I remember how it felt. So it was easier to still connect to them and show them something better. And so that's what I started doing.
That's what's up. I got a couple. You sent me some pictures, but also I'm gonna put them up here. I want you to just give me a little information behind the pictures we throw up on the screen, a little something.
Okay. So that picture is me at Overland Park out here in Southern California, over on Overland and right off of Venice. It's a park we used to play at back in the day. And I went there with Catalina Villegas from Spectrum One News doing an interview. And we went back to that park, and that's what I was wearing right there. My mom bought me that Lacoste hat. I still have it. I wash it, bleach it up. I still have that Lacoste hat. I still have the Warrior jacket, even though I had to take it to the cleaners and get a lot of material cut off to fit me, because that jacket, when I came home, was a 4X. 290 pounds when I first came home. I had to have that jacket. I took that
Shrunk
jacket.
it down. Cut
Look,
that weight.
they cut about a third of that material
Cut that
off to
weight
get it to
off.
fit me. So now 210, 215. You saw me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I trimmed it down. I got thick. And my niece put me on a veggie diet. And man, boy, that veggie diet, that weight started falling
It's
off.
got you right.
And I went from 290 to, when I got to like 225, I looked in the mirror. I said,
look good.
damn, I ain't seen this body in a long time.
Yeah. That comeback.
And when I
for
get to
real.
215 and I step in the bathroom now and like,
Yeah. Feeling good. Yes, sir. Speaking of those Warriors. Speaking of
right.
those Warriors right there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
That was one of the dope experiences I ever seen for somebody else. I was happy for you. Didn't even know you. Didn't even know. I was happy for you to see the backstory, how they told him played it. Even though I'm a Sacramento Kings fan till I die. But to see them highlight you, sir, of what you've done. And in your element, I'm like, really, y'all might as well put the man on the payroll because he good. He good like that. That game, I think I ain't watched the highlights for sure, but you can just tell. As they say, it was lit in there. They was going crazy. You
Well,
had
wasn't nobody in the arena. It was still during COVID.
it's
They wasn't
crazy.
letting nobody in the NBA arenas yet, right? So
Yeah,
they was the press corps,
right.
a lot of
Even the
people that
players
work.
though, the players was like,
Oh yeah, they was lit.
they players was like, man, this dude, who is this dude? I'm like, because that's true. It was so clear because it wasn't nobody in there. But the
Right.
players' reactions, the players, they moving. I'm like, oh, this dude got them because they ain't no fans been at the game. You had them turn
Nah,
all the way up. You had them
nah,
turn
and
all
they
the
and
way
they
up.
walking in there, right? And ESPN had told me what they was gonna do. It's like,
Okay.
hey man, we're gonna film this. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna mic you up. You know what I'm saying? It's not the first. When I was in to just a little bit backstory before I
Okay, go
finish
ahead.
that.
Yeah.
When I was in when I was in San Quentin, matter of fact, the year that we filmed Cue Ball
Mm-hmm.
in the big game with the San Quentin Warriors versus the Golden State Warriors coaching
Mm-hmm.
staff,
Yeah.
that day, I had 4 mics on me.
Hey, I will say you did. Oh boy, what's the last manager who was there? What's his name or GM? Oh
Bob
my god,
Myers.
he was getting buckets, but your play by play, and he could hoop a little bit.
Oh,
He can
Bob is
hoop.
dope.
He can
Oh,
hoop.
Bob went to UCLA. He won the championship
Oh,
with
see,
with the O'Bannon brothers in there.
really with Charles
Yeah,
O'Bannon, Ed O'Bannon. Oh, I'm a
yeah,
UCLA
yeah.
fan. I
That's
probably.
who
Oh
Bob
yeah,
Myers
tight.
played with. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. He was
Charles
Tyson
Ed
Eddy was over
O'Bannon,
there.
Tyson Eddie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Hey,
Bob
I'm a
Myers
UCLA.
was on that team.
I'm a UCLA fan though. I watched them like they was it. The O'Bannon
Man,
brothers,
Bob
that
Myers
was
was on
it.
that team, man. Bob Myers
Wow.
was on the UCLA national team that won.
Wow.
Bob Myers was on that team. And after graduation, he became a sports agent
Wow.
rather than pursue a career.
Wow.
So to answer, but to go back to your point, right? And so when I get the call after I get out of prison,
Mhm.
excuse me, I had just did the All-Star game for the American Basketball Association that Friday in February. Sunday was the NBA All-Star game.
Mhm.
So I'm up at the Mamba Academy Friday night calling the ABA All-Star game and reading a letter that I wrote to Kobe Bryant when I was the sports editor at San Quentin News. I was able to read that letter for
Mhm.
people to hear because nobody had ever heard it.
Mhm.
And so I remember telling my nieces that night when we was driving back to LA from
Mhm.
Calabasas, I said, you know what? I think I just crossed over. They was like, what? I said, I just called an all-star game for the American Basketball Association. I said, that's pretty big, right?
Major.
And that was Friday night. Sunday, all-star game to 2021. I go in my emails and I see the Ray Ritter Golden State Warriors. What is this, right?
Hmm.
Open it up. I'm thinking it's some spam and some BS, right? I read it. We want you to come up and be the guest public address announcer for an NBA game of the Houston Rockets versus the Golden State. Wait, whoa, let me back up. Did I just read right now? Hold up.
Don't play with me.
Right. So now I scroll down to the bottom and I look and I see the trophies and I see the Golden State Word thing and I see everything is looking right. And I go back up and I read it again. And I remember, man, I remember the look on my face, and it was this look. And I looked up again, and the next thing I know, I couldn't see because I was crying.
Mhm.
I was
Dope.
crying. And
Dope. Dope.
we talking 26 years in prison.
Yeah.
We talking about me calling basketball on dangerous ass level fours,
Yep.
Lancaster, High Desert, Calipatria. We talking about me leaving from the level four, going to a level three, and literally creating leagues, a basketball league and softball league that literally kept our folks out of trouble for 3 years straight, kept violence down on the yard 3 years straight. We was able to bring a softball team in from Texas to play against the teams we had on the yard because that's how cool the program was running. The police ain't asked me to do it. My dudes asked me to do it because we were so successful with the softball. We needed that because we had brothers coming from LA. They fighting a gang fight on a yard down in El Centro, California, where the racial numbers are so twisted that if the Southsiders felt like they wanted to just do us, there was nothing we could do except fight a valiant fight and go down in flames. And so I'm losing young brothers. Like I said, I know how they feel. I used to be that age. I used to be at the age where you not sure if you measure up to your contemporaries, you know. And I used my religious knowledge. I used my academic knowledge. I used my influence, and I kept my dudes out the way.
So that's a blessing, man. Service. You
Kept
serve.
them out the way.
You serve.
There's many dudes that was in the CBL. That was the name of the basketball league, the Convicts All-Star Basketball Leagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in particular one dude, he was the lead scorer during the season.
Mm-hmm.
He was carrying the league, but he kept getting in trouble. And I worked in the program office, and he came in one day, and they was getting ready to roll him up off the yard. And I literally went into the lieutenant's office right across from my office. I said, "Hey, you can't roll him up."
Mm-hmm.
The lieutenant looked at me like, "What? Inmate, you coming up in here telling me what I can and can't do?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Look," his name was Granish. I said, "Look, Lieutenant Granish." And I had stats. We kept our leads
Mm-hmm.
stat orientated.
Mm-hmm.
I went to my desk and pulled out the stat sheets and showed this lieutenant who this guy was.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm like, "Look," he like, "Man, I don't give a damn about none of that." I said, "Listen, if you take that dude off this yard, it's gonna get violent out there."
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing everything I can to keep it from being violent out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked at me and he got mad. And he said, "If this dude gets in any more trouble, I'm rolling you up and putting you in the hole." I said, "You can do that. He ain't gonna be in trouble no more." And I walked right out of his office and went over to the single man cage where he was at and looked him right in his face. I said, "Nigga, I
Mm-hmm.
just got you from going to the hole because you the star of the CBL. You bet not fuck up again or I'm gonna be in your cell and I'm gonna beat your ass."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I meant that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And thankfully, and it's my young dude, I love him to death.
Mm-hmm.
And look, he's so crazy, right? He went home right after he had just won the CBL championship, the first one. He won it.
Mm-hmm.
He goes home. He's home long enough. I don't know if this was like, a home, a home and beacon or what. But right before the next season started, that knucklehead got violated and came back to the prison to get back in the league.
Yeah, he won't leave you, man. That much of an impact for you, man. That much of an impact. That much of an impact.
Man,
That's crazy.
man, I promised those dudes and I did it. I did
Yeah.
3 games a day, 5 days a week during the basketball season. The league, the first to 19 was the game, right, in the
Yeah.
regular season. And keeping them dudes busy, getting those guys into religious services so they can come to the yard on a rotational basis.
Mm-hmm.
All of that stuff was part of what got me here to talk to you
Yeah.
because I
That's
started
true.
understanding what selfless work was, not about me, but doing something for somebody else, which is why I get so emotional about it now.
Yeah.
Because
It's
in the
meaningful.
moment, I didn't realize what I was doing.
Yeah, it's impactful, man. It's definitely
Yeah.
impactful, and I appreciate you sharing the story. But as you know, in the basketball game, a triple threat, drill, pass, shoot. At the end of every show, for me though, man, I like to get my guests triple threat. So I need three things that people that may either see you or three things that you have built your foundation on going forward that they can know. Oh yeah, that's Showtime Taylor. When they see you, when they hear those three things, they know that is direct correlation of how you live your life or how you operate. Give me your triple threat right now.
So my first triple threat is chair.
Mhm.
CHAIR. You're going to need character, humility, accountability, integrity, and
Hmm.
responsibility to sit on any stage, to sit in any space,
Okay.
to command your space within spaces. You must sit on a chair, and
Mm-hmm.
that chair has to be founded on your character, your humility. See, humility is something we're sorely lacking in today's time.
Mm-hmm.
People don't want to be humble. They want everybody. It's always, I did this and I did that. Cut that out.
Mm-hmm.
Just put the work in.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is huge because if you aren't accountable to yourself, you're going to do all kind of stuff. But if you ain't accountable to you, how you going to be accountable to somebody else?
Mm-hmm.
Integrity is the foundation of accountability because your integrity is going to make you be accountable even when it's not even called for. Your integrity is going to make your accountability be seen even when you aren't seen.
Mm-hmm.
And being responsible as a leader of yourself first, your family, your crew, whatever it is, you have to be responsible right? And so that's the first one. My second threat, which is probably they're going to get bigger.
Mm-hmm.
My second threat is emotional intelligence. You have to get out of how you feel so you can understand how the next person
Somebody
feels.
else. Yeah, for sure.
And to do that, you have to develop my second threat, which is empathy. I
Mm-hmm.
don't need you to sympathize with me. Don't feel sorry for me. And I don't feel sorry for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sympathizing with anybody. I empathize with
Empathize.
you,
Mm-hmm.
which means I took the time to take your feelings,
To consideration.
internalize them,
Mm-hmm.
internalize your feelings, and put myself in your shoes and looked at the world according to your experience, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's empathy. What stops me from doing some of the things that I used to do back in the day, I'll share this second threat. I told you earlier I got robbed when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
I told you earlier at 15 I've been sexually assaulted by an older woman.
Mm-hmm.
The way that I tapped into empathy was when I went back and looked at that furniture store robbery, rather than look at the actions that I took and tried to defend them, I took my 14-year-old self,
Mm-hmm.
who was a victim of a robbery, put that person inside of the white guy who I just tried to rob in the furniture store.
Mm-hmm.
And then I looked at the world through my 14-year-old eyes and his body, and I looked back at my adult self at what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't robbing him, I was robbing myself when I looked back at that incident. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember every feeling I had when that dude put that gun right here and
Mm-hmm.
stuck his hand in my pocket, snatched my chain off, and told me, if you say anything, I'm gonna blow your head off. I had to remember that and how that felt so I could relate to him and the worker in the store, so I
Mm-hmm.
could relate to the people who I shot at, so I can relate to the people who I kidnapped when I was doing the robberies, so I can relate to the victims in the robberies, so I can relate to the EMTs who came to get me after
Mm-hmm.
I committed that crime, and now you got to come save my dumbass life for going up in there trying to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Each one of those steps, I had to put my 14-year-old self into those people and then look at me as an adult, but I'm in their body as a child, the victim of a robbery.
Empathy.
That's huge. That's my
Empathy.
second one.
Empathy.
My third triple threat. So we got a chair
Mm-hmm.
and we got empathy.
Mm-hmm.
This is most important in all of them. The ability to work for someone else without asking for anything in return.
Mm.
If you
Service.
want to, it's not even just service.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word for it, right? And for the Christians that may see this, a lot of y'all already know this word. And it's called agape,
Mm-hmm.
AGAPE.
Mm-hmm.
That agape love. Agape love is literally unconditional. No conditions. No, nothing is attached to agape love but pure, honest, straight from the heart love. It isn't God based. It isn't nothing. You don't even need God for this. If
Mm-hmm.
you need God, cool, you know what I'm saying? But you don't need God for agape love.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have the ability to love yourself unconditionally so you can give unconditional love to somebody. The problem with number three and why it's so pertinent, but it's so dangerous right now because
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand how to love unconditionally. Everybody's loving on a transactional basis.
Mm-hmm.
I'll love you if you love me.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pay half the bills if you pay half the bills. You know what I'm saying? It's always a given. That's not unconditional.
True.
That's not agape. It's no back and forth. It's I'm giving. And I'm
Unconditional
not
love.
worried about what's coming back
Mm-hmm.
because I'm not giving it to receive nothing back from you. I'm giving it because it makes me feel better. It
Mm-hmm.
makes me feel good to watch you grow, to advance. When you asked me to come on this show,
Mm-hmm.
right, I took it as an opportunity, right, to come on, not just to share about who I am, but to show you who I am, more importantly.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much the crowd, you.
Mm-hmm.
because we're in the same field. I see you as a role model. You see me as a role model. I see you as a hero because guys like you who never went to jail during the 26 years I was gone, who stayed out here on the street, went to work, raised their kids, took care of their families, with their woman, you know what I'm saying, went through the trials and tribulations. You guys are heroes and you don't get enough flowers. They not making enough flowers for y'all.
Right.
Why? Because nobody seems to appreciate the work that it takes to be the type of person you are.
True. Well said.
And that's where I come in at.
Well
You
said.
want to sit up and praise me for doing 26 years, man?
Yeah.
Fuck that. Excuse my language. I know this ain't
Yeah.
hard in the paint,
You're
but I
good.
got to get hard in the paint. Fuck that.
Real.
Stop praising me for doing 26 years in prison. I did 26 years in prison because I was fucking up. The system didn't put me in prison. The white man didn't put me in prison. The courts didn't put me in system. The police didn't put me in the system. It wasn't my mama's fault. It wasn't the neighborhood I grew up in. It wasn't the woman who claimed I was the father of a child. And what? None of those things brought me to prison. The choices I made in those situations is what brought me to prison. So I get really, really frustrated when people be like, man, that brother did 26 years in prison, man. He's man, I ain't never, man, how'd you do that, man? And you didn't ever mess with a man or nothing like that? How'd you do it? Man, fuck that. That's not the story. The story is I had to be accountable within those 26 years. I had to take responsibility for what brought me to prison. That was the way I could get out of prison. So don't praise me for doing 26 years. If you want to pat me on the back, just be like, man, that brother changed while he was in there. That's why when the guy in the post-game interview said, man, your story's Hollywood, man. You did 26 years in prison. You come out, you killed it on the intro. Man, look, I did a lot to rehabilitate myself in 26 years. And I finally had to get to the point where it was like, man, you can be more than what you think you are. And then once I figured out that I could be more than what I thought I was, then it was time for me to tell everybody, you know what, bro, you can be more than that right now. What, bro, you can be more than a young black man from South Central Los Angeles down here at the southern tip of California, fighting a gang war that's back in LA. You could be more than that right now. What you mean? Anybody never told me that? Did you ever think about learning another language? Did you ever think about writing a letter to your mother and apologizing for what brought you to prison and away from her? Did you ever think about thanking the man who's with your woman right now, taking care of your kids while you in jail? Have you ever thought about picking up the phone and thanking him? Bruh, I don't know who you are. I understand you with my woman and, you know, that's cool. She ain't my woman, she yours, but I appreciate you taking care of my kids. I appreciate you helping them out in my family's home because I'm not there doing it. I appreciate you helping my woman pay the phone bill so I can call collect. I appreciate you buying my kids Christmas presents, birthday presents, being there with them for Easter because I'm not there. That's why I give guys like you and guys who've never been to prison or jail straight props, because y'all been doing yeoman work out here while our dumbasses had messed up in the 90s and was locked up all this time. You know what I'm saying? So I don't blame too much of society on anybody but me putting myself in a position to get myself away from society and forcing brothers like you to grow up the way you did. And then you grow up and become responsible and accountable and sit on that chair. You see what I'm saying? So my third one is the most dangerous because that's the one that's going to help everybody, because they like, he said what? Bruh, stop praising me, praise him.
Agape. Yeah. That's
dope. Don't praise me, praise him. Because he's been doing the work on an unconditional basis. I did it in prison after I had already messed up. You see what I'm saying? I did mine after. He never went.
Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I know we can do the work together now too as well, which is the dope part about this. I mean, now and going now, right? So it's about those relationships and connections and communication. And I appreciate you. Like I said, I was super excited to get this opportunity, meet you in person, and to get this happen so quickly.
And I was super excited, but y'all don't know, man. Y'all be giving me all y'all be giving me flowers, right? I'll be sitting up there like, dude, y'all the ones. What you talking about?
And it's dope, man. Like I said, I know it's gonna touch a lot of people. Got a lot of comments in the chat. Better go back and look at those, man. A lot of your
What they saying in the
homeboys.
chats right now?
Oh, see, real quick, homeboy, James Nelson, president of
Oh, that's
Laos.
my boy right
Yeah,
there.
he
Look,
said,
James
yeah,
Nelson, that's my boy right there.
yeah,
Look,
James Nelson
hey,
tapped in.
if he's
Let's see.
listening to this, right, J-Walk, I'm gonna say it now. You don't know how satisfying it was when I caught that interception that day after I changed teams.
Uh, Hassan Booker jumped in on there.
Yeah, that's my
Hassan
boy. I
Booker.
just met him. He's a
Yep.
part of USOT, the Universal School of Thought. Hassan,
Yeah.
assalamu
See.
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Yeah.
barakatuh.
Darnell Hill was on there.
Yeah, that's my boy. He
Um,
was in the CBL too, man. He
okay.
definitely took part in everything we did up there, man. You know what
Yep.
I'm saying? Darnell was at San Quentin with me. That's my
Yep.
boy too. Keep naming some
Yeah,
names
I
off.
got you. I
If
got you.
y'all here,
It's a couple more. Yep. Lateef Harmon, uh,
Lateef, hey, that's
Amari
another brother I met at
Rose,
Stop. Lateef
Amir
has his
Rose.
own
Yeah.
podcast as well.
Okay.
Amira Rose, that's my
Yeah.
Muslim sister right there. Listen, Amir, wait, let me back up.
Go
Lateef
ahead.
Harmon was a solid dad with me. He has his own podcast now. Him and Michael Swain, the
Okay.
prison kingpin. The prison kingpin was in prison in Kentucky when on April the 10th, 2021, when I did the
Mm-hmm.
Warrior game. He saw that. He was in
Mm,
jail. He saw that on his TV,
mm-hmm.
got out of jail, wrote a book, then it made him a bunch of money,
Mm-hmm.
influences around the world, and he flew me down to Atlanta for the
Mm-hmm.
Hawks Clipper game for me to come into the State Farm Arena and
Dope.
pull up on TikTok and go live and call the game.
That's dope, man. That's dope.
Latif is the centerpiece between that.
Yeah.
Amira Rose is from Chicago, right? She is a staunch advocate for incarcerated, formerly incarcerated, but she puts in work.
Dope.
That sister is dealing with health problems from catching COVID, and she
Mm,
gets up and go put in the work to try
that's
to make
dope.
sure that cats that's in prison, one, have representation out here, knowing that there's people that's looking out for them, but two,
Mm-hmm.
and most importantly, give them an outlet for their expression in night of poetry and poetry and everything. She's got a lot of other little programs going on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Man, listen, man, I got some dope people
Yeah. Yeah. That's
that's part
dope.
of my
They
Facebook group, man.
impactful,
My
man.
folks,
They impactful, man. Sir,
they
Mr.
are.
Taylor, I really appreciate you. We tapped in. We got contacts. We gonna tune in. We doing leagues, helping to support the women's leagues together.
Man,
I
it's not
definitely
gonna stop,
appreciate you,
bro.
man. Yeah.
I'm gonna say it. I want to say
Go
it
ahead.
again before we end it. I
Go
want to
ahead.
make sure I say this again because I want everybody when they see this to know what I'm saying. It's not just the brother that I'm talking about. Again, if a brother hasn't went to jail, brother or sister, man, woman,
Mm-hmm.
husband, wife, father, whatever, if you didn't go to jail in the 90s in the three strikes,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been out from 94 all the way to watching this show, right? And especially if you're a black man, a brown man, somebody, person of color in this society.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't go to jail and you stayed out here this whole time, listen, man, I didn't expect none of y'all to be gangsters because they arrested all of us. We thought we
Mm-hmm.
was gangsters, so we went to jail. They
Mm-hmm.
arrested 85% of us. So that means there was 15% G's left out here and
Mm-hmm.
85% just regular dudes,
Mm-hmm.
just regular cats. They are the heroes. They are the role models. The ones who never gang banged, the ones who never sold dope, the ones who wasn't in the street playing with them sticks, and the
Mm-hmm.
ones that was in the streets playing with them handheld ones.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't do that. They got up, they went to work, they took care of their
Mm-hmm.
families, they paid their bills, they did the best they could do up against the shit that they was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
They are role models. Give these people their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
When you see them, give them their flowers. Because if you don't, you are taking what you're saying with the way you live that sent you to jail
Mm-hmm.
is more important than the individuals who chose not to live that way, who were squares and took care of our kids and our families while we was locked up. So you
Mm-hmm.
got to give guys like this their flowers. And when you see them, give them their flowers, especially these young black men in our neighborhoods. Give them their flowers.
Mm-hmm.
Make them know that they're appreciated. Because right now we're taking a beating publicly, not just black folks, but just on the financial
Mm-hmm.
scales and whatnot. We're taking a beating.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody wants to be acknowledged. Give these guys their flowers. Give
Sir.
them their flowers,
Yeah,
man. Give
yeah,
it to them. Make them know that you
yeah.
appreciate what they did while we was gone. It may
Mm-hmm.
not have been the best. They wasn't thugs like we was, but they
Mm-hmm.
did what they did, and they got it to where we come home, and now we can fill in those spaces with them. but they have to take the lead because they was out here. So give them their flowers.
Understood, sir.
Give
Man,
it
y'all
to
heard it. Hey, I ain't got no more to say. Y'all heard it here first from somebody who I'm definitely happy to be in communication with and keep building our platforms together, but also help give that information to everybody listening, watching, or viewing what we're doing, what he's doing, if it's on the basketball court, if it's in schools, if it's in the public, because we still got to serve. And that should be committed as well. But yes, y'all, again, subscribe to the podcast, both of ours, Hard in the Paint podcast. Follow him. He's everywhere. 94 Feet with Coach JT. I'm trying to get everywhere. I'm working, but now I got a new
You
mentor to
there.
tap into. I got somebody who I can tap into.
But
And
you
that's
got
what's gonna
graphic.
happen.
Wait, hold on, bro. You got a graphic up here on your thing. What are you talking about? You trying to be? You
Step
got a
by step.
graphic right here.
Step by step, baby. I
I
appreciate you,
don't even have
sir.
a graphic on my. I gotta send my stuff. I gotta send my stuff to post production to get the graphics and all. You got a graphic right here.
Hey, I'm trying, baby. I'm trying. Have a good rest of your weekend, sir. Have a good rest of your Friday. I appreciate you because you definitely kicked mine off the right way. And I'll tap in soon. None but love. Appreciate you, sir. We out.
One second. Let me get
Yes,
this
sir.
out real quick.
Go ahead.
Follow
Go
me at
ahead.
Hard in the Paint. He said it
Yes.
already. Follow me at Hard in the
Go ahead.
Paint. I just got my hoodies out.
Okay.
I've been promoting all y'all stuff
I
for
got you.
almost a year and a half
There.
on my. Not you. Now, this ain't one for you. This is for the people
Yeah.
that's gonna watch this.
Okay.
I've been promoting y'all stuff for a year and a half. Every time you send me something, I throw it right up on my stuff. It ain't a pause that go up in there. You send it to me, I see it. Doop, it's there, right on my storyline. And some of y'all know who watches my storylines. I'm gonna say it this way. I better start seeing them Hard in the Paints pop up on people's storyline, or I'm gonna have a problem with y'all.
Facts. It's all good.
Now I'm teasing. Y'all help me out. Help me out. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. I did what I did out of the kindness of my heart. Whatever it takes. We're all going to be successful as long as we work together. And I'm working with this brother, period.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. You heard it here first, man. Coach JT. We got Aaron Showtime Taylor on this Friday afternoon. We out. Much love, A. Peace.
Throw up my black power.